Latest and the best of footballing and sporting news across the world. Now, as I had promised, I promised to make a video, to do a video on the Glazers sale of Manchester United is released by the club. That is, a statement was released by the club yesterday, and the information in that particular statement is that for the first time in 17 years, the Glazers are considering selling Manchester United either partially or entirely. Now, these are very breathtaking news for Manchester United fans because the Glazer family, for the time that they have been in the club, there has been a lot of unrest among the fan base. And this video I'm going to make in different editions. That is, I'm going to start with a basis, just a video explaining the basis of this Glazer ownership so that the fans can know how the Glazer ownership came up about, or how did they take over, who are the owners of this club prior to the Glazers, and why is the club in so much debt for the last 17 years. Now, the Glazer family took over Manchester United in 2005, and they took over from John McNair and JP McManus. Those were the owners prior to the Glazers. And the two Irishmen who have, of course, who had invested in real estate and horse racing. And Sir Alex Ferguson, who was the manager at the time, happened to have a very good relationship with the two, that is John McNair and McManus, to an extent that they involved him in their horse racing business. He became a shareholder in that horse racing business. And now in 2002, it happened that the horse retired, and so it means that that was the end of their business, and they quite had some disagreements over the sharing of the dues that came from the horse racing business. And so Sir Alex Ferguson parted ways with the two, that is McNair and McManus, and so it did with the club. I mean, when you don't have a good relationship with the manager, it is hard to have a good relationship with the club as general. So in 2005, that's or 2004, that's when John McNair and JP McManus parted ways with Sir Alex Ferguson. That is, they started having a strained relationship. And now, in club ownership, what happens is that you can't have one particular person owning the club. In majority of cases, we have different shareholders owning the club. That is, for example, in this particular case, John McNair and McManus had 80% of shares, or they were owning 80% of shares. They were the stakeholders or shareholders of 80% of shares at Manchester United. But the rest, 20%, was distributed, of course, across maybe different fund schemes. You as fans, you can have a group that you decide we are going to invest in this club. So the rest of the 20%, it happened that Malcolm Glazer, who is the father to the 6 Glazer son, talk of Joel Glazer, talk of Avram Glazer, Kevin, and so on. So their father Malcolm Glazer happened to be a shareholder. He owned 3% of the shares at Manchester United at that time. And since the duo of McNair and McManus started having that strained relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson, the Glazer family shares started growing from 3%, and by the end of 2004, the shares had grown to 30%. And now in 2005, that's when they took over the club for an estimated a cost of 790 million euros. Now I just wanna explain why the club has been in so much debt ever since. And the basis of these debts is that during this takeover, they never had enough money to invest, of course, in buying this particular club. 790 million euros is such a huge amount of money. It's a fortune. I mean, it's not just something that you can get from nowhere. So they took a loan of 600 million euros. Yeah, took a loan of 600 million euros so that they could invest in the club, and then the money that the profits they made from the club, that's what they were going to use to pay the debts, right? Of course, we are talking about Manchester United, a club that has a very big stadium, so you expect a lot of ticket sales. Almost every match, the stadium Old Trafford is full to capacity, 75 or 76,000 fans. So they expected the profits that they were going to make from the club is the one that they were going to use to pay the loan. There is something we call leverage, and this is when you take a loan expecting that the profits you are going to make from that particular investment will be more than the interest payable to the lender, to the money lender, to the one who lended you that particular loan. And so ever since, Manchester United has been paying 60 million euros a year in terms of interest costs because of that particular debt from 2005. And as of 2022, it is estimated that Manchester United currently have debts of over 500 million euros as a result of the Glazer takeover. Imagine 500 million euros. Now I just want to explain why the fans have been so mad at this particular ownership, because there are some who argue, why do you keep on blaming the Glazers? They have always given you the money for signings. You have signed Pogba for quite a huge sum. You have signed Antony last season. You have signed Casemiro for 80 million. They have always invested in players. That is true, but that is good on the short run, and you can be very happy and excited about it. But in the long run, you are spoiling your club because, first of all, the Glazers have zero knowledge on football. They are not like Roman Abramovich, who was very passionate, who was attending matches, and of course, a great football fan. He's known to be a great football fan. So the Glazers, in terms of the people they um, employ in the position of, for example, CEO Richard Arnold, the director of football or the sporting director, the likes of John Mata, they are not people who are competent. Maybe they are competent in terms of their experience in business, but look at top clubs in Europe. You don't just look at a person's experience in business when you are looking for a sporting director or a technical director. Look at Arsenal. We have Edu Gaspar. He was a former player. He's very experienced in the field of football. He knows what goes in and out of the dressing room, all these things. So when he is, of course, looking for a player to sign in a transfer, he has the knowledge. He knows this kind of player would fit better into this system. Look also at Bayern Munich. They have the likes of Oliver Kahn. He's their former goalkeeper, a very experienced person. We'll have also Karl-Heinz Rummenigge at the same club. I mean, you have people who are competent at the top of the hierarchy, so nothing can go wrong even in the appointment of the managers. But look at Manchester United. Richard Arnold, he's experienced in the world of business. That's all the Glazers need. Look at who is this? John Mata. He's experienced in the world of business. That's all they need. Only Darren Fletcher that we can say is a technical director. He has been involved at Manchester United. He's a former player. He knows exactly what to look for in a midfielder, in a striker, in a defender, and so on. And so for the first 15 years of the Glazers' tenure at Manchester United, it is estimated that the club has paid over 800 million euros in terms of interest, of course, emanating from that loan in 2005. The Glazers have also been taking off dividends from the club. For example, in June 2022, some few months ago, they took out 11 million euros as dividends. Of course, what the club or an investment gives back to the investors or to the shareholders of that particular investment. And it's fair to say they are supposed to take. But again, you look at it from another perspective. This club has been suffering in post COVID-19 era for the last for the in the COVID era. Manchester United have not been making this profit because there were no fans in the stadiums, and so you expect losses. But yet 1 year later, the Glazers are taking the money from the club. I mean, does it make sense? They have never taken out their money from their pockets to invest in buying players. All the money that has been used is what has been made from jersey sales, of course, and that's why they signed Cristiano Ronaldo, so that they can have enough money to spend in transfers, and of course to put into their own pockets. So there was a statement that was released by Richard Arnold in June concerning why Manchester United keep on giving these dividends to the Glazer family. And he said that while the pandemic has impacted recent financial performance, we were consistently profitable in the years beforehand, and we expect to be again in the future. I mean, you expect to be profitable in the future. In what manner? I mean, this is very controversial. I mean, you are saying that you expect to be again profitable in the future when you know very well if you don't invest in the right players, you know yourself as Richard Arnold, you are incompetent as a CEO of this club. The person sitting below you, John Mata, is also incompetent. And you know very well, apart from jersey sales and the tickets, another source of revenue for the club is, of course, being involved in Champions League and, of course, winning trophies. Are you gonna win trophies when you have people at the top of the hierarchy? I mean, when you have incompetent people at the top of the hierarchy? No, you are not gonna win. You are not gonna be involved in the Champions League. You are going to be in the Europa League, where the rest, like the likes of Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal this season are in the Europa League, but watch this space. This club, the kind of restructuring that is taking place and the kind of backing Arteta is going to have in January and in the subsequent transfer windows is going to be huge, and Arsenal will be involved consistently. And I'm saying this without any fear of contradiction. Arsenal will be involved consistently in the Champions League in coming years if nothing happens or nothing goes wrong. With what we are seeing with the promotion of Edu Gaspar, I expect Arsenal to be a very competitive side in the coming years. Now, Richard Arnold expects Manchester United to be profitable in the coming years, yet you have very incompetent people at the top. This is just shows the kind of neglect, and it just shows the owners don't care about this club. Now, right now, I'm just gonna discuss why are the Glazers selling this club. There are people who have been saying it's because of the revelation by Cristiano Ronaldo, but that the Glazers don't care about the club, they care about making profits and so on. But according to me, I don't think that has anything to do with Cristiano Ronaldo's revelation. This is something that was always on the way. This is something that I anticipated it would happen. I never thought it would happen this fast, but it is something that I expected. Now, the reason they are selling Manchester United, first of all, is because they know Newcastle United have new owners, Arabian owners, who of course are gonna invest so much. I expect Newcastle to go for a striker in January because Alexander Isak is injured, and is expected to be on the sidelines for quite a long time. They know that Pep Guardiola has of course renewed his contract with Manchester City, so he's gonna be backed with a lot of money to do some new signings. They know the kind of restructuring that has been happening at Arsenal with the promotion of Edu Gaspar to the position of sporting director, and they know Liverpool is also on the verge of being sold. So they will be the only ones that is potentially, I am not saying they will be the only ones, American owners in top clubs in the Premier League. But if the FSG happen to sell Liverpool to maybe an Arabian owner or an English owner who is not as stingy as they are, the Glazer family will be the only um, owners in the Premier League, of course, owning a huge club, and there will be a lot of pressure on them to invest. Now, that's why basically the Glazers want to sell Manchester United. I mean, this is what, like the saying goes, when push comes to shove, we just have to let go some things, no matter how profitable they've been, no matter how the loss you might undergo at the moment. But I mean, if you consider the pressure that is coming in the recent or in the subsequent years from now, you just have to relieve yourself some of these duties. And so in the next episode, I'm gonna discuss some of the potential bidders for this particular process. We have had Michael Knighton, a former board member at Manchester United. We have had Jim Ratcliffe talking about a potential takeover at Manchester United. I'm gonna discuss them in the second video, but what I've just said in this video is just the basis of the argument. Why are the Glazers selling Manchester United? Why is the club in so much debts? And I hope that now I've expounded on that, the fans have a better understanding. Anyone who never knew, why are these fans keeping on protesting against the Glazers, yet they have given the money for players to be signed. You have signed Lukaku in the last 10 years, you have signed Pogba, you have signed Ibrahimovic, you've had very talented players, but again, in the long run, as I have explained, the club will never develop if you have this kind of owners. So in the next episode, I'm just gonna discuss some of these potential